And the next speaker on the list is Mr. Johansson from Sweden, and he will speak on behalf of Socialist Group. You have the floor for 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me first say that we have no big problems with the draft resolution in the report as such. It doesn't say much more than what has happened, and we can't disagree on that. But when we come to the explanatory memorandum and to the attempts from the rapporteur and from the OECD to explain why things could develop like this, I must say that I find the analysis quite thin. From OECD, there is no self-criticism at all. I didn't hear any of that in Mr. Gura's speech either. I am, as Mr. Omtzig, also quite curious of that book, What OECD Learned from the Crisis, if we ever will see that. For to be honest, what has the OECD, the IMF, and other international economic expertise preached now for 2 decades? Well, they said, set the markets free, deregulate, cut down social protection, cut down taxes. They've said, capitalism works for itself, don't interfere, leave the markets alone, then there will be, they've said, full employment, growth, social development. Now all these people must be quite ashamed. Probably they in secret they blush from waist up. Because now we learn once again what we have actually known all the time: capitalism isn't stable. It is never stable. It produces speculation bubbles now and then when markets lose contact with their reality, when they run wild and then collapse. And we shouldn't be surprised of that, because we've seen that since the 19th century and even before that. It's just the way it works. But who is paying the price for this? Well, it's certainly not the banks. It's ordinary people who are paying the price. Millions and millions of employees losing their jobs, losing their houses, losing their future. But to the neoliberals in this world, that is not a problem. The market will mend itself, they say. In the long run, they say, growth will come back and everyone will get a job and the sun will shine again, but only if the markets are left alone. In the long run, they say. But to quote the great British economist John Maynard Keynes, in the long run, we're all dead. Well, now the tide is turning. Some understand this faster than others, that things must change. As the report points out, the nations that is now leading the world out of the recession is not any of the conservative and liberal countries in Europe. In fact, it is not Europe at all. It is, as the report says, the United States and China that is now pulling the world out of the recession, thanks to their stimulus programs. So we've seen once again what happens if you set the markets totally free and if you consequently have policies that put profit before people. And it stands clear for most of us that we need to go back to stronger regulation of financial markets, and that we need active states that can stimulate the economy with investment in infrastructure, education, programs for the unemployed in order to turn economic crisis around. And not to forget that we need proper unemployment insurances, strong social protection systems. If you don't have that, consumption will collapse when the crisis comes, deepening the crisis even more. Furthermore, if you don't have proper social protection in a situation of mass unemployment, this will lead to just those protectionist tendencies that the OECD fears so much. If there is no social protection, people will of course cling to their working places with every means, and they will ask their politicians for protectionist policies. We can just look at the United States for that. There is a close link between unemployment insurances and free trade, which maybe OECD now also realizes. Now some say that, well, we've seen the light in the tunnel. Things are looking brighter now. Well, maybe if you're sitting in a CEO chair in one of the banks or in the multinational companies, things are looking brighter. But for ordinary people in Europe, the crisis has just started. The unemployment rate will rocket sky high this year and next year and reach the hideous figure of 12% in the euro area in 2010. The most valuable asset of a nation is its population's willingness and ability to work. So unemployment, Mr. President, is above all other things, first of all, a tremendous waste of human resources and skills. But unemployment is also the path to violence. Just think of the social consequences with an unemployment rate of 12%. What will happen to our continent in terms of crime and social conflicts? How will the liberal and conservative governments of Europe meet that? Build more prisons, hire more police. It's time to learn the lessons for real. To bring down unemployment must be the most important issue on this continent for many years to come. But to bring down unemployment, there has to be a new economic political agenda. The neoliberal agenda is old medicine, it's outdated, and it has been proven wrong. The crisis shows that once and for all, and the OECD should also be prepared to learn that lesson. Thank you.